Welcome to a new world of WATSORB. This one's going to be a wee bit different. I'm going to actually focus on and review a game rather than just some clips and hopefully come up with a wee series and see where that takes me. So for my first foray into this world, as you can see, I could only pick Final Fantasy VII. It's a game I could talk endlessly about, and with the remake out last year, prompted me to revisit the idea of my own Final Fantasy VII video. Whenever I hear this intro music, instantly takes me back to the first times playing this game. Would have been in late 97, early 98, aged about 16, and from the off I was enchanted, although I'm pretty sure it would never have used that word at the time. Hats off to Nobuo Uematsu, I hope I got that right, for his tremendous score across the whole game and of course upgrades for the remake. Beautifully imagined, or reimagined. I must admit, I lingered in this new opening for quite some time after getting it for my birthday last year, to the point that my wife and kids were wondering why I wasn't playing the new £60 game. I just loved hearing that tune again, modernised and so simple. I was just so excited to see what it would be like, and when I did, I was not to be disappointed. The remake sets out with a statement of intent with a beautiful panoramic view of the area outside Midgar, the city where the main action of the first section of the original game and the whole of this first part of the remake takes place. We'd seen this kind of thing before with Advent Children, but this was different, obviously, even more polished than that animated sequel, but also this was an introduction to a new game, and I was going to get to play Final Fantasy VII as it had originally been envisaged by the makers. And of course, with Advent Children we saw the aftermath of the original story, but now we got to see what things were really like in Midgar when we experienced that story initially. Something I'll repeat throughout this video, probably the whole series, is that from the start of Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's as if you pinched the corner of your screen while you're playing the original game and peeled back pre-rendered backgrounds and polygonal people to reveal what was or is really going on underneath. You see the reality of Midgar, people going about their day-to-day stuff, kids playing, all going about normal lives. Makes it real, more relatable to us, just absolutely stunning. And a nice wee nod here to a pivotal story point later in the game with this wee cat slide, something in part which won't be realised till near the end of the full game, and hopefully this series will get there one day. This new added introduction really sets out the sense of scale of the city of Midgar, which could not be made as apparent in the original. And up till this point it's all been new stuff, but here we see a sort of transition which I've moved into the original. And it's this kind of style I want to go with, flowing between the two games to give a sense of the changes while really honouring the original, as it really cannot be understated how much I love this game. So unlike the remake, I didn't have major expectations when I first put this on. A couple of my mates had played it and talked with great enthusiasm, but with no chance of buying my own copy I had to wait for getting a loan of it at some point. I should note it's one of these mates that's been a great help in bringing this video together, with positive feedback and support, including sending me his copy of The Legend of Final Fantasy VII Creation Universe Decryption. It's booked by Nicolas Coursier and Mehdi El Kanafi. It's a must for any Final Fantasy VII fan. I'm sorry I can't add a picture of the cover, but if you can get it I would. It's a real trove of information on the game and everything that surrounds it. And a clear example here of what I meant about pulling the screen back on the original game. It's that extra minute detail going into the remake while still managing to hold on to that initial charm and feel of the original game. Just a few extra scenes with the flower girl, as we know her for now, just show that extra level of detail and attention that we've gone into in the remake, and I'll let the intro flow. So I hope you enjoy my video series about Final Fantasy VII and its remake. So our story begins with a train arriving in Midgar carrying a mysterious mercenary atop it. We didn't see him like this in the original, but we now wait to see how our protagonists will fit into this new reimagined city that we've just seen. Something I thought I would have had more of when I started this was these wee side-by-sides that I've got coming up here. I just felt the flow between the two games worked better for what I wanted to do. But I've left a couple in here just to illustrate how well timed the new scenes are in line with their counterpart in the original. Lovely stuff.
Get down here, Merc.
So as you can see, the opening scenes of the remake are very accurate in terms of the layout, making us feel right at home and very much aware of playing Final Fantasy VII, despite the massive upgrades that have been made to it. The fighting system has been brought in line with the likes of Final Fantasy XV and its predecessors, and of course Kingdom Hearts, although they have managed to maintain elements of the original system. I feel you definitely need both of these working in tandem to do well, especially in the harder setting of the game. For these videos, I've left it on easy just to get through the game quicker to get them made, but I do still plan to tackle it on hard, and I've got plenty of time for that given the release schedule for the remake, which is pretty unclear as far as I'm aware at the moment. Something that I've not missed is a whoosh into battle that you get in the original. I'm sure many Final Fantasy VII veterans will recall the fear of trying to get across a screen or area with little or no magic or heals, dreading that noise, trying to get to a save point. Something new is the addition of some characters' stronger moves from the original game being folded into the main fighting controls of the remake, such as Cloud's Limit Break Braver, which we'll see coming up. And I would say that the fighting system overall does have a freshness to it. So the group that we're with are an environmental terrorist group called Avalanche, and they're aiming to bomb a reactor in the city. There are 8 of these reactors in a ring around Midgar, and they're run by the evil global company, the Shinra Electric Company, and they essentially control the world of the game. They are using these reactors to pull Mako from the planet, and this is to power the city and everything within it, and this is to the planet's detriment, but such is the reason for Avalanche's mission. Clear analogies to our own global environmental predicaments, and not the only cultural reference scattered throughout this masterpiece. Not officially confirmed, there are many allusions to Norse mythology, such as Midgar coming from the name Midgard, and there's the Odin summon later on, and many more, which I'll try to highlight as we go. Something added to the storyline is that our group is part of a larger organisation, and I do wonder how much of a part that will play in any changes made later in the game's plot and story. One thing that I've done there that we of course cannot pull through to the remake is the ability to rename your character, but even for these videos I'm still going with Rusty. That's what I would always call my wee guy. My name is Russell, and I always have amended the text backgrounds as you've seen there to black, white and red. Favourite football team colours of St Mirren, but I digress. Cloud, or Rusty, has joined with this group to destroy Mako Reactor 1. At this point in the game, he still seems pretty focused, aloof and distant, keen to get the job done that he's been hired to do, but his attitude will change and soften throughout. Another detail I love about this remake is the accuracy, not just in its main characters, but in all its elements and in the enemies, just exact to their 1997 counterparts. A couple of examples here, but we'll see a lot throughout the series. Also the areas, backgrounds, it really feels like nothing has been left to chance with this remake. So obviously a lot more in terms of cutscenes, indeed to make this video. took me about 11 minutes of gameplay on the original, 32 minutes of remake time. I think this is a comparison that we'll see throughout, if not extended. The introduction aside, it was only really once we left Midgar, which of course is the end of this first part of the remake, that we actually got to see the graphics which awed us. And here we see a wee earlier introduction of Cloud's problems, which are going to come later, but he seems quite impacted, albeit slightly, by Barrett's questioning, only to come up with a strong answer. To anyone new to the game, won't seem like much just now, but to veterans, it shows a more in-depth look into this whole side of Cloud, and his personality is going to probably be planned.
I'm watching you.
In 3, 2, damn, I'm good. Careful in there. I got this place covered.
So with the original, of course, there was some cheeky adverts put out prior to the game's release, only showing the cutscenes that arrived in that game, and I can imagine maybe some disappointment in probably returned games when they first saw what would go on to become to many beloved Polygon people. And the richness of Final Fantasy VII is something I do plan to pick up later after this series. So we also get to see here an early glimpse of our hero's hometown of Nibelheim, one of those Norse references I mentioned, the name seemingly adapted from Niflheim, or the Land of Mist, potentially Cloud, some have suggested. Coincidence? We don't know. With Mist there, there's allusions to Final Fantasy IX. I suspect the makers, if not Japanese culture, maybe have a fascination with the Norse stuff, and adapt and layer names and themes throughout their games and other media. But I digress once more. Again, experienced players will appreciate this, but it would seem with the remake we'll see a lot of expansion on the original with the storyline, but later elements also point to potential bigger changes which we'll maybe see with the second edition of the remake. So another addition is the revelation of a heavier Shinra involvement in things than we saw originally going through the game, with them aware right from the start of Avalanche's plan. And as we'll see, this becomes involved much more very quickly.
We are currently investigating.
But while Barrett and his crew are resolved to save the planet, this is not something Cloud really has on his mind. I enjoy this comparison in the lift scene as we see Barrett's rather hilarious anger in the original expanded upon. Some over the top as he goes, and it's still of little interest to Cloud, who knows it's the imminent survival of the mission that they've got to focus on.
This pump's sole purpose is to drain the planet dry. While you sleep, while you eat, while you shit, it's here sucking up Mako. It doesn't rest, and it doesn't care. You do realize what Mako is, don't you? Mako is the lifeblood of our world. The planet bleeds green like you and me bleed red. The hell you think's gonna happen when it's all gone, huh? Answer me! You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
Say that again!
I'd worry less about the planet and more about the next 5 seconds. Save the screaming for later.
And there'll be attention to detail here that I really like, with Jessie leaving the lift there first in the original, and they've got her coming out of the lift there first in the remake, and I just feel it's just such a nice touch.
Our lives are on the line now. You listening, Merc? One false move, and that happens.
Well, so much for having Cloud do all the
And that
fighting.
certainly won't be the last
There are some places a sword just can't reach.
innuendo of sorts throughout the game. As we'll see when Tifa makes an appearance, there are certainly some camera focuses which are perhaps questionable. And well, before we get to the end of this first part, it's maybe not the done thing to impart your opinion so strongly in the first video of a review series, but if you loved Final Fantasy VII, you'll love the remake, just for its closeness in so many ways to the original alone, if not for the game's own gameplay, which I still enjoyed, but it'll never be the original. Only homage it, in my opinion, but they have made a beautiful start. It's free just now on the PlayStation Store throughout March 2021, so you would be mad not to download that. Even just stick it in your library for now if you've not got the space. It is well worth taking for nothing, especially when it was £60 a year ago. Is it worth that initial price? I don't know, but will I spend probably in excess of £200 over the next few years to experience this story again?
Soldier first class.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the hell you talking about? I mean your age, not your goddamn rank.
And a nice wee nod to
A soldier's rank.
the darkness of a choice that Cloud has seemingly made to join
That make you a
Soldier, as he has now left, but that'll be expanded upon later in the game.
That's our target, the reactor core. Gotta set the bomb
So
at
as
the
we
bomb.
approach the goal, the sameness
Let's
yet
get
difference, which is so prevalent throughout the remake, I feel is clear. The space just opens up, although you're clearly still in the same place. I just find it tremendous. But here we encounter in the original Cloud's first sign that perhaps something isn't quite right with him, though this means little for now. But as we'll see in a moment, when this moment is translated in the remake, the introduction of this black feather, a nod to the game's primary, seemingly primary antagonist, Sephiroth. In the original, he didn't feature on screen until quite some way out of Midgar, but also as he's one of the main draws of the series, they had to have him in somehow. We'll see in the later videos how well they've put that through here.
Your call, Merc.
So with the bomb selection here, there's a choice between 20 and 30 minutes. Only ever picked 20. In the demo which was released, that made a difference to a little cutscene afterwards. I don't know if it made any difference in the actual game.
Heads up.
But on to the first boss fight again. Everything has just been turned up to 11. The original battle wasn't easy. The first couple of times I played it in 1997, but the difference here is vast, and indeed on the hard setting of the remake, I've not got past this moment yet. I need to learn the skills and set up to proceed there.
You don't want to be hit by that laser.
Huh? So, what do we do?
Don't get hit. Take cover behind that debris.
And again, they've factored this in so well, this style of fight, and the same things that it did in the original. They pulled them across so well. And a lot of damage is done here by the boss, indicating that something more might be happening, but that'll be for next time. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to bringing you the next parts in the coming months. Thank you to the makers of Final Fantasy VII and its remake for giving me the chance to do this. Thanks to the authors of The Legend of Final Fantasy VII, and of course to my good friend Gary for all his help. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in part 2 of my Final Fantasy VII and its remake comparison and review. Cheers for now. Bye bye.